everybody. I'm here on the Hitchin Navigation Canal this morning, on the Compton Beat, part of the Portsmouth Services Fly Fishing Association beats. It's very beautiful, very picturesque. I'll show you in a minute. But I'm a little perturbed this morning. Having fished here last year, and it was wild and it was technical. Coming back this year, a lot of work has been undertaken on fencing off the area behind us, but at times that fencing leaves less than 12 inches of bank in our fishable area. So there are some real prime spots that are holding fish that you just won't be able to get to if the fence finally goes up. Now I'm stood, and I'll change the camera, I'll show you the river. I'm stood here. No, it's not going to change. I'm stood here, and if I turn the camera around, you can see the river, I hope. And literally I have this much space before a fence will go in, and that runs the whole length of the beat so far. Now, I'm pretty light on my feet, pretty able. I can imagine that, you know, not just with 12 inches of bank to stand on to make your cast, but also it's sloping down into the water, and there's quite a drop before you get to the water. It's going to be really tough. I've seen lots of olives, seen a couple of mayfly. I've seen fish taking olives off the top already. I haven't fished anything, but we'll see how it goes. But I'll wander along. I'll start from the bottom of the beat, and I'll report back a bit later. Okay, so I've moved further down the beat. I've met some stern resistance from brambles and nettles and trees falling over, but it is such a wild place, and it is so gorgeous. Does need a little bit of tending. Need to clear away some of the areas so we can get onto some of the walkways and bridges over the little rivulets, but it is glorious here. I'm not quite sure where I'm going to start yet. It's going to be really technical. I'm probably not going to be able to aerialise dry flies, so bow and arrow casts and some more technical fishing is called for. A lot of the fish that I've seen, and I've not seen a massive amount, are sitting very low at the moment. It is still quite early in the day, 10:30. So I might bring out a nice shrimp pattern and see if I can tempt them, and see what happens. I'll try and make my way down to the bottom of the beat to start and walk my way up, but I haven't even tackled my rod up yet, and I haven't even got a line on, so we'll see what happens. Just listen to those sounds. I finally made it to the bottom of the beat. It's very different from last year. It's really hard to get. Right, so I've just spent 10 minutes or so just tackling up in this very confined space. There's nowhere to put anything down, so everything will just get in the mud. So having to do everything, balancing really. Lots of interest from people walking by, because you can't fish from the other bank, but you can fish from this bank, as we're part of Portsmouth Services. So I've set up. I'll switch the camera around. I'll show you what I'm using. It's always been very successful for me. I'm sure there are lots of other things I could be doing and will be doing, and I learn as I go along all the time. But that's the nature of being out here, is that suddenly you think, oh, okay, that might not be textbook, but that's going to work. Okay, so I'll show you what I start off with the rod. So here we go. Get this into focus. This is my all-time favourite rod. This is my Guideline Fario CRS 8'9" 3-weight. I got it in a sale, reduced from 500 quid to about 140, and I absolutely adore it. It's got a beautiful action, does everything that I would like. And I do appreciate that this is trying to focus on the ground, so I'm going to hold things out further. So my reel, got nice and simple, my ever so trusty Stealth 3-4 Snowbie, with a Snowbie line on it, 3-weight. I want to say it's a thistledown line, but I can't remember, to be perfectly honest. And at the all-important end, I'll just put the rod down. At the all-important end, what I've got this leading to, if I just pull it up, I've got this leading to 5 feet of furled leader. Now I took to using furled leaders on the river last year to overcome the twisting of bushy type dries, and I was quite impressed with it. So I'm going to try it again this year. So I've got 5 feet of that, coming down with a loop-to-loop connection. There it is, as small as loop as I can get. I like the loop-to-loop, and I like the Perfection loop because it allows the mono or the copolymer to actually sit in a straight line. There's no kink to it when it's on the water. Added on to that, I've got some Hardy copolymer, 4.2 pounds test strength. Not too light. Some people will say that's too light for here, but I'm just conscious of all of the vegetation I'm quite likely to get caught in at some point. So I don't want to be leaving nylon all over the place and lots of flies. And the real business end, now I'm a confirmed fly geek, and this is one of my all-time favourites. I'll just hold it here. Charles Jardine was talking about this the other day. This is a Kaufman pattern from the States, stimulator, and it mimics everything and anything, and particularly mayfly, and it's a great searching pattern. Just try and get that into focus. I'll put a picture up. It's a great searching pattern, and I haven't seen many fish coming off the top. I've seen a few. I've looked at the size of the mayfly and the other insects coming off, and they're quite large. So this won't be out of place today. I could go a bit larger, but if I get lots of refusals, swirls, and they don't take it, I'll drop it down to a smaller version and just see what happens. But also, if they're lying and they're searching and they're waiting, this might just bring them up. This might just prospect them, bring them up from the bottom, and allow me to hopefully net a couple of fish. We'll see. It does spin, not as much as other patterns, but it does spin, so that nice firm copolymer does the trick. There are times where I've even put on a 6 to 8 pound copolymer with a very heavy fly, particularly if I'm casting distance. Sorry, a bushy fly casting distance. But I'm not going to be casting distance. It's going to be lots of flicks, lots of rolls, lots of catapults, lots of bow and arrows, whatever you want to call them. Probably lots of hilarity and trying not to fall in. But we'll see what happens. So I'm going to give it a go. If I get lucky, we'll see what happens in the next bit. Either that or the next segment will be me looking really dejected and probably full of mud and lots of stings from stinging nettles. But we'll see what happens. I had to abandon the other area, the other swim. It was up to about 3 feet in mud at one point, and it just really wasn't safe. Plus also further down there were some swimmers in the water, which is a bit off, but hey, it happens. I just wanted to highlight this point. I'm perched on a ridge here. I can't move backwards because there's a dip, and I can't move forwards because there's the river. And I've made a little swim for myself. And you can see just up here, I wanted to point out the edges because on the river, this is where I'm going to be targeting first. This is where the fish are primarily going to be holding. Safety. They're out of the way of predators. The sun's pretty high at the moment. It's not the perfect time of day to be fishing. But if I was a fish, I'd be tucked in. You can probably just make out this little dip about halfway up the screen there. I'd be tucked in around by there and dropping in and out of the flow, ready to pick up some food. It's slack water, so I don't have to expend lots of energy. I'm not going to be right in the middle because it's actually running quite quickly. But you know, if I do go out in the middle, I can get back to my original lie. And if we move across the river, you can see just on the other side of the navigation canal, I'd be then targeting the other side because they'll be doing exactly the same thing. Very few holding deep into the middle, and if they tend to be, in my experience, tends to be the bigger fish that will hold deep in the middle because they're more, they feel safer because they're bigger. They're least likely to get picked off, although they will. You know, and as we come down, this is where getting out of the garden, practicing your accuracy casts. You know, trying to hit plates and trying to get it into a circle, a hula hoop, or whatever it is you've got is perfect because getting it right down that edge without getting it into that vegetation is going to be the key to you picking off fish. A little bit of a break. I've been tracking a fish. Can't be any more than about 8 to 10 ounces. Beautiful looking thing. I think it might have been a grayling. Wasn't quite sure, but it's been moving up and down a swim constantly, so it's been very hard to target. And subsequently I swapped to nymphs because they were feeding off the bottom and weren't coming up. I've been prospecting with the dries all morning so far. Nothing yet, not too surprising, so I'm going to put some nymphs on and see what happens. But I didn't manage to catch it. Lost 2 flies. Because this is a really tricky position to fish in. So if I turn the camera, you'll be able to see just through that into that little cut there. That's where I was stood, and you can see all the trees around it. You know, so you know, it was hard. But now it's time to have a look at what's in my box. So we're looking at the boxes I've pulled out of my coat. So I've got this box here. This is my nymph box. You can see it's got lots of shrimp patterns in it, lots of very heavy jigback nymphs in there as well on that particular side, all weighted, varying in sizes, some very large, some very small. Then moving across to here, got my my favourite copper johns in lots of different colours. Probably won't use those today, but you never know what happens. And then moving over to the other leaf, I've got a whole selection of Baetis, peeping caddis, in lots of different sizes. And moving across, we can move into, I've got sort of like a pop-up emerger, sugar cube type things, and also these nice little orange tag hare's ears that work wonders really. Lots of Polish nymphs as well. So that's the nymph box. Then we come across, I've got two dry boxes with me today. So this is my first one here. We've got Klinkhammers in quite small sizes. I've got sedgehogs, like sedgehogs. Lots of stimulators, lots of olive patterns, lots of kite imperials, Adams. Got my Adams here just hiding. There they are, my little Adams patterns that I tied up. And that's just one of my boxes. There's some hawthorns in there just in case. And then moving across to the second box, I've got lots of Elcaire caddis. More olives here, bubble emergers, CDC bubble emergers, sedges, and some daddies that I was playing around with. I didn't bring any of my mayflies with me, strangely. Should have done that. And I've got some humpies in by here as well. So all of these things will, you know, I've got enough there in my armoury to suit today. I'm happy with just a fish. That's all I ever ask when I go fishing. Not bothered if I don't catch, because it's all about the enjoyment. But one fish would be really nice. So I've moved further up the beat now. It's pretty muddy underfoot. I'll show you my foot. Not quite sure what I'll do if I actually hook into a fish, how I can actually get to it, but we'll work that one out as and when. Just had a first for me, just busy targeting 3 very beautiful wild browns. Just not taking anything. I've been here 40 minutes stalking them, and 2 people came swimming up through the beat and have continued up and apologised, which was great. Loved it. Thanks guys. Appreciate that I think it's free swimming up here because it's public land, but really, you know, could have got out of the water, but never mind. You know, we've all got to live on the waterways and use it in the ways which we are allowed to. So I don't have free access to everything. Just really frustrating being targeting those fish for 40 minutes. Just getting them to start to just take an interest in a little Paraloop CDC bubble emerger, and now this bit's ruined. So I'm gonna have a coffee and rethink my stuff. It's amazing what a bit of a rest and a cup of coffee can do for you. Just put it up into the margins, right up as I showed you earlier, and suddenly was just snatched by this rather beautiful river itching brownie. I've just managed to get into my net, my new Orvis Kimbridge net, christened. But we'll get him out in a minute. I don't want to take him out of the water for too long or anything, but I just need to make sure that I've unhooked him. Okay, so she took that pretty deep, had to get the forceps out, but there she is. I'm not going to take her out, but she's absolutely stunning. That's got to be a good... Right, folks, so the fly that caught the fish, I'll try and get it to focus in. There she is. A CDC Paraloop emerger. I don't know if I can get that in really well focused. There we go. Oh, just there we go. It's looking a bit bedraggled now. Swap that one out, get it to dry out, put it in a bit of Amadou, and go from there and put another one on and go stalk some fish. Unfortunately, the swimmers have just been back down, going the opposite direction, so I'm now going to have to wait and have another coffee. But hey, coffee's good. Okay, so had to work really hard today. I've had 4 fish now. One nice 3/4 pound brown, 2 very small little wild browns that just knocked off the hook just as they came in. But just been stalking this. I thought it was a brown, but it turns out that it's a rather, if I can get in, it's a rather pretty, what must be 3/4 of a pound, possibly a pound, maybe even a pound and a half, Itchen Navigation Canal grayling, and I love a grayling. Taking on a peeping caddis. She wasn't taking anything off the top. I tried that, but threw a peeping caddis in, boom, straight on. So I'll unhook her and I'll release her. Okay, so it's around about 4:30. I've given up for the day. It's very hot. It was a real challenge. Finished, landed 4 fish in the end. The 3 browns and a grayling on very simple patterns: Paraloop, Quilla Merger, and the peeping caddis. Didn't realise the grayling was a grayling until I actually saw that fin kite in the stream. A very beautiful fish. Love grayling, one of my favourites. Got a bit silly. I've turfed off about 9, if not even 10 poachers, 2 of them in a canoe, all very polite. They all just explained to them that it was private fishing, and I pointed them in the direction where there is a little bit of free fishing, but they were encroaching back down again. So as per our club bylaws and advice, I phoned the police and reported it, and we'll go from there. But it's what we can do. We need to protect our waterways, and these people are fishing with massive spinning lures, and you know, these waters, most of these parts are sites of special scientific interest, so we're the gatekeepers for these. I've just come across a bit into the shade in the car. It's boiling hot. I'm going to go for a little bit of walk down another stretch, and have a across the water, say, social distance chat with a fellow angler, Ron, on the Manor Beat, just to say hello, because I've not seen him for months, and give him a wave. And then I'm going to head home and I'm going to have a beer. But I'll piece all this together and hope you've enjoyed it. It's not perfect, I know that. I've already got a bit of grief from my mate for doing it originally in portrait, but that's all good stuff, and I look forward to doing the next one. Take care.